Accessibility ain't just for those with disabilities. Makes the world better for everyone, online as well as in person. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am the blind blogger Maxwell Ivy, and this is the Accessibility Advantage, where I plan to continue advocating for more accessibility for and inclusion of people with disabilities by emphasizing the many positive benefits of inclusion. You can find me at theaccessibilityadvantage.com. You can also follow me on LinkedIn at Maxwell Ivy. I'm IVEY. So hope y'all will check me out online. Appreciate it if you would support our sponsor, Blueberry. That's blueberry.com, but without the E's. They provide the hosting to this podcast and several others, uh, being produced by people with vision loss or other disabilities. So I hope y'all will check them out. And if your organization needs some help improving accessibility across your online presence, then please reach out to me. I'm available as a writer, speaker, consultant, and podcaster. Uh, Now, I want to do a short audio description. I am a older Caucasian male, large man, 6'5". If you see me in the street, I got medium dark brown hair with some gray and some white in it, and it's a medium length. I've got kind of green brown eyes, depending on who you ask. I'm wearing a white button down dress shirt. I'm recording this from my bedroom, which is where I do most everything. I have retinitis pigmentosa, as does my guest, as you will hear in a little bit. I have only light perception, which means I have no functional vision. Our pronouns are he and him. So today we're going to welcome Dr. Charles Powell to the podcast. Now, he lost his vision to RP about 13 or 14 years ago. But since then, his life has been about resilience. And so he's turned his energies and focus into achieving several advanced degrees, including one in cybersecurity. You can't get much more pertinent than cybersecurity these days. So he must have been ahead of the curve. He founded Divine Visions Enterprise to help support small businesses, entertainers, and people from marginalized communities. I'm looking forward to seeing what kind of services he does offer and some of the kinds of people he has helped. You can find Dr. Charles White at divinevisionsenterprise.com. So, Dr. Powell, appreciate you coming on the podcast and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ivy. It's truly a pleasure to be here.
Well, I'm very happy to have you, and I'd love it if you talk a little bit to start with about your vision loss because it doesn't seem like it's something you've always lived with, and then a little bit about your educational journey.
Well, honestly, I was diagnosed with retinitis pigmentosa when I was a child, but back then it was nothing to me. But I wore glasses. I never had the idea or the thought that I would completely lose my sight. So I was just a kid who wore glasses as a child, didn't think much of it. I wasn't educated on it by my parents or anyone else up until 13 years ago when I actually lost all of my sight. I am similar to you. I do have light perception, which basically means if it's light or well lit or sunny outside, I see a bright tinge of red. But if it's an overcast, gloomy, or dark, I just see complete blackness. So I have no usable vision at all. And basically, I live in the dark at all times. As far as my education, when I lost my sight, I went through the myriad of emotions. I went through the stages of acceptance or, just the reality that I will never see again. And education became my lifeline. Education was a way for me to stay connected, relevant, as well as empowered. So my goal was to start off getting a associate's degree, which was an 18-month program in paralegal studies, just so I can get a job. And from that associate's degree, it went on to a dual bachelor's, triple master's, and ended up in a doctorate degree. And like I said at the time, the only goal for me was making myself more employable, getting a skill that I can be productive as a productive member of society.
Right, and that's a definite motivation for all of us. So, finding skills so that you can be employable is very important, and it's interesting that your focus was on just getting the associates. I don't get the sense that you started out thinking I'm going to be a triple master's and a PhD.
No, sir. I If someone would have told me back then I would be where I am today, I would think they was crazy because I did have opposition when I made the decision to return to school. And this is a very sad thing because I was in conversation or affiliated with other blind individuals in my community. And when we was all together at a meeting, I had mentioned that I want to go back to school to see if I can get a job. And one of their first thing that was said was, "Why would you want to do that? You're going to lose your disability check." So I did not have the support from that community, and it was kind of depressing. They was giving me all the reasons why I couldn't do this or why it wasn't possible. So of course I removed myself from that situation. I, kept the positiveness and I enrolled in it. So when I got my associate's degree, the paralegal studies certificate, it just wasn't working. I was still putting in applications, sending out resumes, and I wasn't getting the job. So my outcome from that was I just need more education. So I went for my bachelor's. And then the cycle continued to repeat itself. I got my first bachelor's and I still wasn't able to get a job. So I went on for my second bachelor's. When that didn't work, I went for my master's. And it was so interesting that after I got my second master's, when I was working on my second master's, which was in cybersecurity, I got a job, but that job was as a dishwasher at Chick-fil-A.
Yeah, it is. It is terrible, and that's one of the things. That's one of the many things we have to speak about is that it's the lack of expectations. I spoke with Ken Kunkin about this last year, and he was saying that not only people with vision loss or disabilities have to raise our expectations, but employers and business owners have to raise their expectations of what we are capable of.
I totally agree with that. And that is one of my things. That is one of the main reasons that I started the movement that I did, Blind But Not Broken. But a lot of people see us when they see the white cane, they see the glasses, they see our blindness. They attempt to let that blindness define us when in reality, that blindness refines us. They need to stop thinking of the old days that when you see a man with a white cane, a woman with a white cane, we're on the corner begging for change. Those days are gone. We're no longer begging for change. We are the catalyst for change.
Okay. One thing that I am known for on this podcast and my other one that's been going longer, What's Your Excuse, is that I live in the moment. I either ask questions or I share things because they feel right to me. So you just brought up something that I have gotten in my life, and I'd like to get your opinion on it. As you heard I sing on the intro of my podcast. I often do that when I do public speaking. I've been doing it pretty much ever since I've had a podcast. I have had other visually impaired people come up to me and say, Max, you're holding us back as a community because the fact that you sing reminds people that blind people that used to be all we used to be. We used to beg and we used to sing and play instruments or tune pianos.
I don't think that you're holding us back. You are doing something that you love doing. By you singing at the beginning of your podcast, that lets me know if that's what they focus on, they're not actually listening to the message that you're always bringing. because every show or every episode that I've viewed thus far of you, you are always uplifting. You're bringing information, you're bringing knowledge, you are uplifting the blind community. If you want to sing, I mean, if that's what they got out of that, I don't think they pay attention to you.
Well,
That's
well, I'm
just
glad. I'm glad you're on my side of this, but there are some blind people I've met over the years who are on the other side of that argument. So I appreciate that. But you mentioned these things that are hanging us back, the preconceived notions about what we're capable of, about our talents and our abilities. You also already mentioned people saying that you would lose your disability. Um, so let's just continue to speak to more of these things that keep people from finding work or from even trying to get work, and how education plays into that.
education plays a big part into finding employment or getting people to see that our blindness is not a disability or is not a hindrance to us, because if we're saying that we can only do certain things, like you mentioned, people say that blind people are known for singing. We know that blind people can sing. We have Stevie Wonder and Ray Charles. They did a great job at it. But we can do much more than that. If you're going to tell me what I can't do, and you're in society, you are in corporate America, you're telling me that I can't do something, but I earned every degree that society has put out there. What society called their hierarchy, I hold a terminal degree. So what you're saying that I can't do, society has certified me to do already. So education is one thing that I can stand on and I can fight for the right that, okay, I am educated. I have the knowledge to do this. What is your excuse now? But society in the whole, they look at us, like I said, they see the white cane, they see a vision deficient, sight impairment, but they don't see the individual. And that is where I found my most resistance. I will send out resumes to all of the law offices, the businesses within a 30-mile radius of my home. Soon as they see that resume, I am getting emails, I'm getting phone calls coming for an interview. But once I walk into that place for an interview, it seems like the whole atmosphere changed. They don't give us the opportunity. They don't give us the chance to prove our worth to what we can do.
Right. Now, we're talking about employment now, but did you also run into that in the education system itself? Were there professors, administrators, deans, caseworkers from whatever state agency you depended on who also tried to argue against you getting the education?
First and foremost, as far as the agencies that I was dealing with when I returned to school, I basically stepped away from them, as well as the other organizations that stand for the blind and the blind community where I live, because they didn't encourage me. They was telling me all the reasons why I shouldn't return to school, or all the reasons why I would not be successful returning to higher education. So I disassociated myself with those individuals, because it's all about mindset. When I first started in school at the business college, a little community college, for my certificate, my associates, the professors and the teachers I had, they were okay. I never taught a blind person. And I said, okay, I never learned as a blind person. I'm new to this just like you, and we'll learn together. It was some instructors who got frustrated with me. They was like, okay, this is not working. I'm like, you're not giving it a chance. So I've actually had, in the beginning, I had a sighted guide who actually went with me to class. He went with me to school. He went class to class with me. And if it was something that I had to do that I need sight for, they were there to do it. The teachers allowed me to turn in my work through emails and do everything on the computer. But if we had a quiz or a test, my sighted assistant will read me the questions. We'll go to another room. They'll read me the questions. I'll give them the answer, and they'll fill it in. So that was the extent to that they was willing to learn. But I did run into problems where I had a professor. He was using a third-party software to provide his assignments and his tests. and the third party website was not accessible. I called the people at the disability office at my college. They had no idea what they was doing. So I called the individual, the website itself. I called the company and spoke to their technology team, and they told me it was not accessible. There's nothing they can do. They never ran into that problem. So when I went back to the professor, he was like, "Well, if you don't get your work in, I'm going to fail you." And then I was like, "No, you're not." So I went above his head to the day. I went to the provost of the program, didn't get no answers there. So I included the dean and the president of the university. I advocated for myself, standing on the ADA laws, the Individuals with Disabilities Act, and I put it to them like, this is the law. I'm not asking for a favor. And when it came to the end of that story, it was okay, we'll give you alternative assignments. For everything you can't do on the website that all the other classmates are doing, you got to write a paper for. And when he told me that, he said, well, each paper got to be at least 6 pages, APA and everything. What he didn't understand, that writing was one of my strongest skills, so it didn't really bother me. So I did run into roadblocks, but thankfully I was prepared for this, and I learned to advocate for myself.
Right. So I'm going to admit that I came to our conversation with some preconceived notions of my own. I am kind of surprised to find out, and of course, things may have changed a little over the last decade. I'm kind of surprised to find out that you got more pushback and more discouragement from people who are visually impaired or people in the community or people in the advocacy space than you did from people in the education process.
And this is something that I be very careful when I do bring up and when I speak about it, because so many people in the blind and sight impaired community don't like to hear when I say this. But when we are fighting to destroy stereotypes and to break the negative sight on blind and sight impaired people, those stereotypes and those thoughts didn't come out of nowhere. We still, for every person like yourself and I who are doing things and moving on with our blindness, there's 10 to 20 out there who's using their blindness as an excuse not to do anything. I hear so many times in our community, and I don't say this to knock anyone or judge anyone, but I have run into so many blind or sight impaired people who say I can't do this because I'm blind. When they go out, they will just go out any way they feel. I asked the person, well, when you go out, what do you think about when you thinking about what to wear or how you're going to dress? I don't care. I just grab a pair of pants, shirt, and some shoes. I can't see what I look like, so I don't care. Or when they go out to a restaurant, they're slinging food, making a mess. And you ask them, like, okay, why is this? What do they expect? I'm blind. So we can't use that as a double-edged sword. When I stand up and say, I'm not going to let my blindness define me, or I'm not going to use my blindness as an excuse, there's 10 other people who say they can't or they won't do that because they're blind. And if we're honest with ourselves and everyone else, we are not, we can't blame society for how they see us, because we don't know what the blind person or what experience that they seen from the blind community before us.
Yeah, and that's very challenging because whether we're talking about vision loss or any other type of disability, very few times is someone exposed to multiple people with a disability at one time. Generally, people are exposed to one visually impaired person or one person in a wheelchair. It's not like there are lots of us that show up in any one place at the same time. So we do often have to either live up to or overcome the experiences of the person they met before us.
Exactly. And this is why I feel that we all need to come and get on the same page. If I say, prime example, you can say something about a politician, But does that hold to every politician? You can say something about a garbage man. Does that hold to every garbage man? We need to stop seeing people as a collective in a group and start seeing the individual. In
Right.
society, this has been going on for so long. There's always something that they want to categorize us or put us in a group. I'm not going to say all blind people, can't do or won't do. I'm not going to say, even with race come in, I'm not going to say all Caucasians are bad or all African Americans are thieves or all whatever, whatever. I'm going to see a person for a person. I'm not going to dislike you or judge you by the class of people that you come from. I see you as an individual, and that's what I think society needs to do for us. Is
Right.
every blind person going to be able or motivated to go back to school and get the degrees I got? I would hope they would be, but unfortunately, the reality is some of them are not.
Right. And one of the things I feel like, I'm not a big language person. I'm not one of those people who gets hung up over what words we use as long as they are not obviously insulting. But one thing I do often think about is trying to is instead of referring to ourselves as a group as uh, a disability community or people with a disability, that we really should lean into the idea of we are individuals with disabilities.
I can agree with that, but then on the same hand, I hate that word. The word
well,
dis
well,
the word
I have a wonderful friend named Missy Sue Mastel, and she is really trying to get into my head on this. And she has this conversation a lot because she works in a nonprofit space. She's like, Max, we need to stop talking about it as disabled or disability because those words mean other. We need to talk about it as these are the challenges of life that can occur to anyone at any time, at any age. And that if we can do that, then we get to a point where everyone can see themselves as potentially living with the challenges that are currently described as having a disability.
exactly. My thing is, I don't even call it a disability. I call it a differability because I do things different. When you think
Yeah.
of the word itself, disability, you're already telling me that I don't have the ability to do something. Disable, you're saying I am not able to do these things. So when you tag me as disabled or having a disability, you're already, judging what I can and what I can't do. So that word, they say disability is politically correct. No, disability is an insult and a slap in the face because look at the word disability. They're already telling us that we can't do or we're not able to do, and I don't agree with that.
Right. So I've heard differently abled, and I can get behind that, but I would like you to say it the way you said it again, so I can kind of get the sound in my head a little.
Differability. The
Differability.
differability means
Differability.
that we do things different. We can do all things, we just do them different. And if anyone want to challenge that degree, only thing I say that I can't do, I won't be able to do without by myself is fly airplane, drive a car, or ride a motorcycle. Everything
Well,
else, let's bring it to the table. You do it, I do it. I may do it differently. And
well,
what
there's a lady from Utah who has been approved to fly a small plane. She's not allowed to fly cross country, but she's been given certification to fly from regional airport to regional airport. And last year she flew from Utah to DC in several legs. And yes, I'm sorry I can't think of her name off the top of my head, but I'm 60 years old now, and I run through a lot of names, but I'll put it in the show notes for y'all. But so there, and of course the former head of the NFB drove a adapted stock car around the track at Daytona a few years ago as part of a fundraiser. So who knows? There you may have a list of two or three things that you can't do now. You might be able to do in the future, but I do get your point. So what are we've talked about education and how important it is. If to you it was a lifeline, and To many people who are living with challenges, physical, mental, emotional, intellectual, it can be a lifeline. It can also be a form of a purpose, giving them a reason to get out of bed on a regular basis. So, the thing I want to get at now is, how does ensuring the education of people who are differently able, how does that benefit business, the economy, society as a general? Because I feel like one of the things we don't do a good enough job at is explaining clearly how this benefits people beyond simply maybe they spend a few less dollars and a few less taxpayer dollars on supplemental insurance income.
I do not. When I look at educating or uplifting a person with a disability, a blind person, or another person who faces challenges, that is a strategic move, not only for the community but for society as a whole. People do not understand. Let's take blindness. A blind individual can bring more than they're giving us credit to. We are resilient. We are problem solvers. We are people who see things completely different from society. If they see the benefits that we bring, they will think about a whole different, they will see us in a totally different way. Society sees us with our blindness, but for one, we're going to come in and work twice as hard because we got to work three times as hard just to be seen as equal. We know that we are coming in society's viewpoint as the underdog. So we're going to work hard to prove ourselves not only to society, but to prove ourselves that we can still do it. We have been hit with everything under the sun. We make challenges. People have no idea. When we get up, we have to go in there and make our breakfast, make our coffee. We got to do our day to day things, and we got to do it without asking for help or begging for help to let people know that we are independent. So if we have taken from going from being a sighted individual to a blind individual, if we solve that problem and we had to go on with life, we have achieved of solving the problem or living life with the change of going from sighted to blind. What other problem could your company or your job bring to me that you don't think I can solve? We see things completely different. A sighted person is so easily distracted. If you're sitting there and you're on crunch time, let's use the law for instance. If you need a deposition or litigation or motion in at 5 o'clock and it's 4:02, and that motion usually takes a person 2 hours, you got an individual who is not looking around at everything. They're not getting distracted by who walks past them or what's going on in the hallway. You have an individual that's focused directly on what they're doing. If you put, when I was in the office, I will sit there and have my headphones on and I'm listening to Jaws, my screen reader, and doing my work. I'm not distracted because I can't see what's around me and my headphones is not allowing me to hear it. Even if you look at the problems that we have already solved, think about it. They see our blindness as a hindrance or as a problem, but they don't see how focused that we are. We are problem solvers.
Right. So, what you're saying, and I agree with you, is that because of our vision loss or any other disability, we have developed skills that include dedication, loyalty, industriousness, problem solving. We generally tend to be dedicated, loyal people. And I feel like for the most part, we're generally optimistic and positive people.
Mm-hmm.
And by making sure that we can navigate the education system, making sure we can improve our knowledge so that we qualify for those positions, gives the world and especially employers the opportunity to have this special person, because without the educational certifications or degrees, all those other abilities don't wouldn't get you there, would they?
They shouldn't get us there. I wouldn't say wouldn't, because I have put in resumes and applied for jobs where I knew I was qualified and I had the education to prove it. But because of whatever situation they want to use, they put an individual in that position who didn't have the education nor the experience. The only thing that they had that I didn't have was sight. So I'm not saying in a perfect world, education would be the answer. If you have someone who goes out there who is educated, who is qualified to do your job, in a perfect world, you should hire that person. But we all know and understand that we don't live in a perfect world.
So then it sounds like what we really need more is a way to educate the people who are doing the hiring, the people who are creating the positions, the people who are coming up with the onboarding materials so that they don't see the vision loss or some other challenge as an automatic reason not to employ you.
Yes, if you want to be technical, that's what we need. But if you want to be totally transparent, we need to have people as whole in general in society to change their mindset. They need to change the way they're thinking. You can be more lenient in your hiring, or you can have HR put out every policy in the world. We just need that individual who's making the decisions for these companies or these jobs to change your mindset. Give us the opportunity. That's what we need. I don't think it's going to be, it's not a big push on we need to change policies. We need to make the curve in the hiring process differently. We need people to see and give us the opportunity. Prime example, look at Sylvester Stallone. Many years ago, he wrote the movie Rocky. Apollo Creed gave an underdog, a nobody, a chance at the heavyweight championship belt. He thought it was going to be an easy win, but by giving that underdog the chance, you got Rocky 1 through 25 in a spin-off series called Creed. I mean, if you give an opportunity to someone, you may be surprised of what they're going to do. So the mindset is everything. If we see someone who can do the job, who's educated to do the job, instead of looking at how they're different or looking at seeing what they can't do, give them the opportunity to show you what they can do. And if you did that, if you were a company, a Fortune 500, a business owner, a lawyer, anyone, I'm not saying that everybody do it, but if you give them the opportunity, another prime example within movies, look at Bobby Boucher. When he played football, when Bobby Boucher played football, he was dominating on the defensive line. Other colleges started going out, putting in their mascots, putting in their water boys, putting in their cleaners. They was grabbing people to see if they can be another Bobby Boucher.
Yes.
So this is what I'm saying. It takes one person to think outside of the box and give that opportunity. And if you give that opportunity, you may be surprised at what you find.
Okay, so I've tried to ask this question several times and I keep missing the mark. So I think I'm going to make this really simple. For Dr. Charles Powell, in an ideal world, how do you get this solved so that more people with vision loss get evaluated and hired in an equitable, equal manner against all the other people that an employer may have to deal with?
Training and education. If you if you have the education and the training to do the job, and you got the mindset to go out there and get the job, in the perfect world, that's how we would do it. We have people out there who say we can't get the training because of any organizations they're dealing with. They're not looking hard enough. As we all know, the Blind Professionals Network give out free training on JAWS, accessibility training. They teach you members. They teach you how to fill out resumes. They assist you in everything that you need to know, and it's all about going out there and getting it. In a perfect world for Dr. Charles Powell, what do I think should change? We need to stand up and let them know everything they say that we cannot do. We need to show them and keep screaming it that we can do it.
Education by direct advocacy and by example.
Yes.
Okay. So we need more. We need more personal examples and less book learning. As far as getting to that ideal world that will lead to more of us having employment.
Yes, we need to see more people like yourself in other podcasts and other people who do interviews. We need to keep showcasing that there are members out there in the community who have challenges, who have different abilities that are still doing things. Society is quick to look at the most negative portrayed image of us in movies and TV shows, but they don't, when they see someone who's done something, who's overcome the challenges, they don't put that out there. So I thank you and all others like you who are showcasing that, okay, there's more than a person in being blind. If they see something, if a blind person go out in society today and make a mistake or do something that people associate with blindness, everybody says, "Oh, look at that person. They're making a mess, or they can't. They need help with this, and that because of their blindness." They're quick to put that all over the world. But when a blind person or any other person with any other challenges or different abilities do something outside of the box, don't nobody see that.
Right. So, the y'all cats at Spotify, if y'all are listening, I'm more than prepared to take some of that Joe Rogan style money. To have the first six-figure podcast host. I'm happy to be the first to do that. Just in case y'all need somebody. But I understand what you're saying. We need more examples. We need more people, especially who are content creators, influencers, people that are just out there in the world openly, letting people see us as individuals, and that can go a long way towards more employment, and I think also a long way towards more successful entrepreneurs who happen to have vision loss.
Exactly. And another thing that I will say, and this is one of my strengths, when I was putting in resumes for law offices and businesses and I kept getting rejected, I didn't take that rejection and go home and cry. When they didn't offer me a seat at the table, I built my own table and brought my own chair. So let's start thinking outside of the box. Just because someone won't hire you or give you a job, open your own company, start your own business, and let them see. For so many people in my field in criminal justice and business, when they didn't give me the opportunity, but now they see my business cards floating around, they see what I'm doing, I'm taking businesses from them. Now they can see, oh, well, maybe they can do it. I don't expect, if you go out there to get a job and you don't get hired and you feel it's because of your differability or your situation, your circumstances, don't just give up with that. Create your own. Try to extend everything. Do you know how much funding out there for nonprofits? Even, you know how many things are out there for people with, as they say, quote unquote, disabilities? You can start your own business. You can build your own table. And that's one thing that Divine Visions Enterprise do. We help individuals who want to be entrepreneurs. We help you build a business. We educate you. We are there with you.
Right. So that's a good transition, y'all. I am speaking with Dr. Charles Powell. He's visually impaired from retinitis pigmentosa. He's achieved several advanced degrees, including a doctorate. And he started this organization, Divine Visions Enterprise, to help small businesses, entertainers, and people from marginalized communities. And you can find him at divinevisionsenterprise.com. So tell us a little bit more about the organization you founded, what kind of services do you offer, and if you have an example you can share of somebody you have helped, that would be appreciated too.
Yes, Divine Visions Enterprise is a multidisciplinary coaching and consulting firm. We do legal, business, education, advocacy, as well as coaching. When I say legal, we are a legal resource. We are 1099 contracted out to law firms and lawyers and big corporations, law firms. We do all the research, the paperwork, and things of that nature. As far as business wise, we help you start a business for businesses that's already up and running. We can be your financial consultant, your business strategist, your we do everything within business for advocacy. We advocate for the quote unquote disability community. We are an educational consultant. We help students start the pre-education. If you go into higher education, we will help you look for the scholarships. We will help you fill out the applications. We will guide you through. And if you're already in school, we give support in tutoring, educational advancement. We will be there to coach you in APA writing, MLA writing. We are a foundation who is all about helping the student. When it comes to law, an example that I hold very near and dear to my heart is an individual in the community was facing a family member was facing criminal charges. They didn't have the money for a lawyer, and the public defender that they had, the first thing they said was, okay, if you plead guilty, you can get this much time. The individual made a mistake, so their family member reached out to me and told me the situation, and I said I can know more if they sent me the paperwork or what they was being charged with. Once I seen the paperwork, it was a simple theory. Only thing they needed was paperwork done. They didn't even need a lawyer to go into court. It just took a little bit of research and a couple of papers to be drawn up, motions to be drawn up for dismissal. What the lawyer told this individual for $3,500 retainer and another $5,000 when we go to court, I can get this individual 3 years, the best time. And they didn't have that type of money. So I told them that I can handle the paperwork. They can go in there and represent themselves per se. And only thing they need to do is submit the paperwork. They asked me how much would that cost because they was on a fixed income. I told them that I would do it for them just as a favor. And I did it. I did the paperwork. I submitted the paperwork to the individuals. They submitted it to the court, and their family member ended up getting 12 months probation. So I'm not saying that all situations turn out like that, but if you have a legal or regulatory problem with the criminal justice system, the Social Security Administration, the Board of Education, we can help with those issues. We can assist with research and paperwork. We can do with my education, I can do everything a lawyer can do except give advice and go to court with you.
Right. So speaking on the legal aspect, just following up on that a little bit, I would imagine considering the people, we're talking mostly about people with vision loss or somehow other differently able. Um, do you also offer services that help them navigate the, let's call it for lack of a better word, quitting the disability social security system as they're starting a business or entering their first job? Is that something else you work with people on?
Yes, I work with individuals. First and foremost, let me state that my company is not only for those with the quote unquote disabilities or challenges. We are a company who is here for everyone. We don't exclude anyone. I am one of those. I do not say sighted versus non sighted, blind versus sighted. I look at people as people. So that's one thing that I would like to get out there. I am just not exclusively for those with disabilities, quote unquote, but my service is provided to everyone. And yes, I do help them with the disability administration. If you are going to start your business, I will let you know the laws and the regulations, what you got to go by when you start your business. That just don't mean your disability benefits get cut off. I will let you know, I will educate you on what you can make or how you can make it. And then when you get to that point, you can turn in the paperwork, not to stop, not to discontinue your benefits, but it will stop them, because just because you start a business does not mean that business is going to be successful. So you don't want to terminate your disability claim or your disability as a whole. You just want to put it on hold. You want to stop it. So if anything ever happens and you need to fall back on that, it will be there. I also
Right.
help individuals when they're going for their disability. If you are just signing up for disability, I know it's a lot of people out there, a lot of organizations out there who would charge your arm and a leg to do this, this, and that. I know the disability laws not because I studied them in school, because I actually lived through it. So if you're applying for your disability or disability for a family member and you have questions or you need research done, we're also here for that.
Right. And also, when it comes to the Social Security or the disability, there are even ways after your business starts making money that you can continue your partial benefits, or even even to a certain extent continue your medical benefits even after you're no longer receiving cash benefits.
Yes, those are the guidelines and the regulations that we know, and those are what we will let you know. When they say ignorance to the law is not justification to break the law, I think you need to go in and know as much as you can. When you're dealing with the Disability Administration or Social Security Administration, you want to know their rules so you do not break the regulations. So that's where we come in at. We are a resource to inform you on that and even educate you on what you should and what you shouldn't do, or what you could or what you're not allowed to do under their guidelines.
Right. Well, I just mentioned that last part because I know from anecdotal experiences that a lot of times people are discouraged from getting education and going towards employment because they're more worried about losing the health care than they are the income.
Right. And you said something that was totally correct. If you lose the financial, the monetary income, you still can keep your insurance. If the job you get or the business you start, you can always keep your medical under their guidelines. And this is what they don't tell you. I have seen so many people who go and get a job and then their disability benefits and everything was cut. I'm like, well, that shouldn't have happened. But they're under the impression that once you get a job, they can take everything, and that's not true. Again, lack of information, lack of knowledge on a certain situation can be more hurtful than helpful.
All right. I know that you didn't have the greatest of experiences with the state agencies or with the advocacy groups, but I feel like I ought to give you a few minutes just to talk about what's going on with the Department of Education and special education funding in the U.S.
Whew. Okay, I'm gonna be this without getting.
And I know from your earlier comments, you know how to be tactful. Okay.
Yes, yes. This is what I was gonna say. We're gonna be very, very politically correct with this. What's going on with higher education, the special education needs, and the cutbacks and the lack of funding is totally sad. And as a whole, I don't agree with all of the reasonings that they're using. They're cutting back on uh, these programs and everything that's happening because there's no pushback. We have gotten so much in the habit of accepting things to be right and correct just because of the source that it's coming from. If you have an individual who quote unquote is seen to be a scholar in law and they tell you a law means this, you're going to take it on face value and accept that without researching or even standing up for that. And this is what I feel is happening in the education, especially for those with the quote unquote disabilities or special education. We are just accepting that they're trying to do this and we're not giving no pushback. So I think if people stood up and actually looked into what they're doing and how they're doing it, we can make a difference because we can't go in there and fight by saying, oh, I think or I don't agree. We need to fight them with the laws that they made. And if you look closely, a lot of their things that they're doing or they're proposing to do, as in, is totally in contradiction to the laws that are already there.
Yes,
That's
and in
about
many
the
cases,
nicest way I can say that.
right? Yeah, and I got a little bit of education at CSUN back in March, and in many cases, those are laws that were passed by Congress, not rulings from courts. So that gives them a different standing, a different strength. But yes, there are laws that were passed by Congress in this area, uh, and just a little bit of follow up on talking about how people need to stand up. It seems to me that one of the issues whenever it comes to advocacy is there really isn't a single community because there are very few issues on which the deaf, the visually impaired, wheelchair users, neural atypical neural disabled people, there are very few issues where all the various types of disabilities will advocate together in the same direction.
Um, I wouldn't say, I will agree that we don't stand together in total, but sometimes when we feel that we need a whole group or population to make a difference, I don't totally agree with that. If
Okay.
you have an individual who will stand up and make enough noise, you can bring it to enough people's attention. Prime
Absolutely.
example, if you get something good, let's say, okay, in the hip hop community, Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, Eminem, and 50 Cent is going on a tour this year. It's going to be one of the biggest tours out there. And you know what? You see that everywhere. You see it post on social media. You see commercials. If you take one individual and make enough noise, people will start to catch on. Prime example, 2022, I was just playing around with Blind But Not Broken. Every tag or every post I put on Facebook, I'll put up Blind But Not Broken, and I'll tell you why I say that. When I gave Blind But Not Broken as the battle cry that I'm blind, but I will never be broken, I can still do everything, and I'm still pushing forward. A few weeks later, I get on social media and I'm seeing hashtag Blind But Not Broken. It's not coming from me. It's coming from other people who are blind. So sometimes the community as a whole or the individuals you want to stand with you, they are scared. I'm not going to say scared. They're hesitant to take that first step. Don't nobody want to be the forefront of any movement or any fight. Once that first person step out there and they know they're not alone, I feel a lot more people will get behind them. They just don't know. They don't want to step out on there and be the first one, or they may not have the knowledge. They may not feel that they can make a difference. But once one person and people start following, when you started this podcast, I I bet you didn't think that the blind blogger would be like notorious in the blind community.
Did you say notorious?
Man, funny story. When I've been seeing your posts and your podcast all over the place, you mentioned the blind blogger is it was just something crazy. Everybody like, okay, that's Maxwell Ivy. When Victoria Hiller, the director of Blind But Not Broken, sent me the email that Maxwell Ivy, the blind blogger, want to sit down with me. Oh my God, I made it now. I done it. I done got noticed
Yeah,
by this guy, the blonde blogger, on LinkedIn. Every half an
you
hour to
know,
an hour, the
you
blonde
know,
blogger, that's what I reposted.
man, that is wild. That is wild because, I like to use the example of a Labrador dog. They get to be big dogs. They get to be 60, 70, sometimes 90 pounds. Okay.
Hmm.
But when it lightnings and thunders outside, they're puppies. And even though I've done all this work going back probably longer than you've been at it, getting close to 2 decades now. Um, when somebody comes along and goes, I know who Max Ivy is, it's an honor, it's a big deal. I have arrived because Max Ivy, the blind blogger, wants me on his. Those are just things that I'm still having trouble making my brain understand. If you'll bear with me a little bit.
I
So
get it.
yeah. So hey, Mariella Paulino from Audio Eye, she's been working on me for over a year now. She's like, Max, you're the blind leaping blogger. You are a trailblazer, an icon. She's like, you need to finally understand who you are and stop walking around the world like you are just a, you know, like you know, like you haven't been there, done that, and continue to do it. So this is wonderful. Like I said, I wanted to mention her name because she's really been in my ear on it, and I'm working on it. Um, but I appreciate that. That's very cool to hear, and I'll do my best to continue to live up to it by showing up. And what you were saying there about one person, that is a very good reminder to me, because one of the things I talk about when I speak to accessibility is how it's not just the person who needs the accessibility, it's all the people that they come in contact with or that care about them. So you're definitely right. It doesn't take the whole community, but I often think it would be easier if the various neighborhoods within the disability world would all get together and push the truck in the same direction.
It would be, and in a perfect world, I want the same thing. But until that happened, we need those frontline soldiers like yourself and I to go out there and start the fight.
Right.
Just because everyone won't get behind us, or just because we don't have a big, backing, does that mean we don't fight? No, we still go out there, we still show up. Even
Right.
if we lose a battle, we may not win that battle, but guess what? It's going to put fear. It's going to let people know that you can't keep doing this. It
Right.
takes one person to start up something and get the ball moving. When
Me and you are an ideal partnership for this reason, because I'm not really a political person. I'm not really a person who intentionally rallies other people. It's just not who I am. I'm a guy who does the work and shows up and is an example. There are quiet leaders in the locker rooms of Super Bowl champions, if you understand what I'm saying. But
exactly.
but you are definitely an advocate, a political person, somebody who I'm sure is just as proud of your blind but not broken as I need to be about my the blind blogger.
I mean, it's so. I wouldn't say I am that person because I feel that I can make a difference. When I started Blind But Not Broken, it was just, something that was in my head. And now I have the Blind Unbroken Hustler. He is the trademark character for my movement. And this character, he is a person who is just like everyone else. He's from the community, he's from the inner cities, he's from the hood, and
Yeah.
people can relate to him when they see the post with the Blind Unbroken Hustler. They feel like, okay, this guy is just like me. He is from where I'm from. He's been through the struggles that I've been through. He knows the challenges that I faced. And this is one of my things that I always say to people. I stand for the people, but ask yourself, everyone that say they stand for the people or they fight for the people, how could you stand for people that you never stood with? How could you stand for people and you never stood where they're standing?
Yeah.
If you take off all of the degrees, the doctor in front of my name, I am just Charles. I did this so I can make a difference. And you know what? I didn't get to I am not at the point where I'm at to say, I'm here, I made it. No, I'm helping others, I'm giving back. I advocate for those. If I hear a blind or a sight impaired individual want to go to school, they say they can't do it. Yes, you can. I'm not telling you that you can't do it because I heard that it can be done. I done it and I will help you. I feel educating and uplifting the blind and sight impaired community is only going to make it stronger. I don't want to be the only one out there qualified to do these jobs. If you start getting blind, sight impaired, or quote unquote disabled individuals educating themselves, getting to the point where they can do the job, they got to give us the job.
Yeah.
So,
As you were describing your character, I feel like I should describe mine because mine is a totally different is totally different, and it's not one I came up with. It was basically I hired an artist a few years ago, and I she asked me what I wanted my logo to be, and I said I really don't know. She said, "Okay, I'll just start checking out your online presence, and I'll see what people say about you, and I'll come back to you with an idea." And so she came back to me. She started with a picture that I used that was taken in New York City by a random stranger on the street in New York of me standing in front of a building wearing a black coat. She then turned that into a silhouette of me standing in front of buildings. But the final image is me in front of the buildings. You can see the earth behind the buildings. I'm standing there in a cape like a superhero. And across the chest, it says the blind blogger. And on the bottom, it says, "What's your excuse?" And then,
mm,
yeah, and now we have a new one for my accessibility work. It still says the blind blogger, but along the bottom it says accessibility benefits everyone.
and that is powerful. You see, it's just the little things that we do that can make a difference. And I thank you for sharing that with me because you're asking what is their excuse. Everyone, I've heard so many people use blindness as an excuse for everything in the world except success. And I love telling people, do not pity my blindness, fear my vision.
I love that. I bet that's on a T-shirt somewhere.
Oh man, that is my that is my signature quote.
That's
I
a great quote. That's Helen Keller worthy quote there, brother.
I mean, it's basically real. People don't understand. Like when they say vision impaired, I'm not vision impaired. My vision has not been more clearer since I lost my sight. When I lost my physical sight, my vision became much clearer and bigger. I didn't start off by saying I want to make this difference. I was like everyone else. I went through the emotional, the mental, and the physical turmoil with accepting the reality that I'm blind. But you know what? Everybody look at all of these surgeries, these miracle drugs, these stem cells and everything to, correct blindness, to fix blindness. If we put so much research into how to take away the blindness like it's a bad thing, and we teach people how to face reality and live with your blindness, how much do you think we can get done?
Yeah, yeah, I do appreciate that. When it comes to returning vision, there is a desperation, almost like an addictive gambler or something, because people will try some crazy stuff to get vision back. But you're right, and I'm gonna share a quote from a great friend of mine, and then I'm gonna give you a couple of minutes to leave our audience with a final thought because I believe I'm well over both of our time limits here. But you know, as I told you before we started recording, I'd basically take the approach of a storyteller. I'm not going to worry about the time. I'm going to worry about our story. So, uh, My friend Joe Pardo, who was the first guy to ever put a mic in my hand and give me the opportunity to be a public speaker, he said, "You know, Max, you may not see the world, but you open the eyes of everyone who comes in contact with you."
Mm,
And I like that one.
I love
So,
that.
share a couple final thoughts and remind people of the website and maybe your favorite social media link, and we'll call it a day.
Basically, if I had to leave the final thoughts that I would want people to take away from this conversation with me and the blonde blogger, you are not broken. You are just built different. Your circumstances and your struggle may be harder, but it's going to make you tougher at the end. Never give up on yourself. Never stop fighting, and never stop advocating for yourself. As long as you are blessed to wake up to see another day, your mission is not done. So, regardless of your circumstances, your situation, physical, mental, emotional, everything can be overcome by changing your mindset. If you got questions about law, business, advocacy, education, and we can be any assistance or services to you, you can reach me at www.divinevisionsenterprise.com. Email info@divinevisionsenterprise.com. And basically, my social media link is Dr. Charles W. Powell II, II, LinkedIn.com.
All
Everything that
right.
I do, you can find there.
All right. I appreciate that. And I appreciate you and your time today. And just to let people know before I repeat my personal stuff, I'm going to close today's show with a verse of "What's Your Excuse" that I ain't recorded or released before, because I think it's a good fit for today. But if y'all are thinking you need some help with the accessibility on your online presence, hope you'll visit me at theaccessibilityadvantage.com. You can email me at maxwell at theaccessibilityadvantage.com, on LinkedIn as well, Maxwell Ivey. I'm available to write, speak, consult, or podcast. I mean, some of you may want to have a podcast to advocate for the successes of your business or educate your potential clients and customers. So that's something you could definitely think about and work with me on. So, theaccessibilityadvantage.com. I do understand you have a lot of obligations on your time. You don't have much time to spend, and you've decided to listen or watch us. So I appreciate that. I do hope that you will take care of yourself and join us next time on the Accessibility Advantage. So I never wanted to have a podcast. Was real happy being just a guest. People said I'd be good at it. Thought maybe if I had a sidekick. Then enter Fred by that crazy Canuck. He said, "I'll produce and you just talk." We got started, he was true to his word. And now the blind blogger's known around the world. If I can do it, what's your excuse? What's holding you back or what's stopping you? Go on and do it, what's there to lose? If I can do it, what's your excuse?
Item chooser menu. 107. 1 item and stream. Button and stream. Button. End the stream. And 5 outro video. Outro video. Group. You are currently item chooser 1 4 items and end the stream heading left. End the stream and stream. Button and stream. Button and stream. Button stream.